I was 3 years old when I fell in love for the first time. I fell in love with a pair of shoes. My black, shiny, patent leather tap shoes, the same ones that Shirley Temple wore. I can remember watching her on my TV and thinking, I can do that. From the start, tapping was different to me. It was loud and exciting, and everything had a specific execution in an exact moment that it happened, and in a time where learning right and wrong was extremely difficult for me, there was never a question in the tap room. I was 7 when I realized I was different from the rest of the girls in my class. Going to tap was a chore for them, but for me, it was my favorite part of the week. My older brother was one of the tappers at my studio, and so were the rest of the boys. They all had tap solos, but I was one of the 2 girls that got one too. Although, to go along with my solos, I always had to do elaborate arms, wear flashy costumes, and do extreme faces just to get to those boys' level. I still danced like them though, so I didn't care. Sometimes after class, our teacher would turn off the lights and we would watch video after video of famous tap dancers spilling their hearts and souls onto the dance floor. Savion Glover, Gregory Hines, Bill Bojangles, John W. Bubbles, Sandman Sims, Jimmy Slide, Fred Astaire, the Nicholas Brothers, Gene Kelly, Michael Jackson. These men were the best tappers I'd ever seen. I could see how those boys I was competing against were incorporating Jimmy's famous slides into their solos. I could see how those boys were dirty and gritty like Savion Glover. I could see how those boys tapped with ease yet complexity like Fred Astaire. I could see how the boys that I was competing against tapped very differently from the girls I was competing against. But not me. No, I tapped like the boys. I was special. My solos had all of those things too. I was doing what those boys were doing. I was only doing it in heels. I was 16 when I got my first pair of real high-heeled tap shoes. After about an hour private lesson, tears streaked my face, blood stained my shoes, and there was nothing more I wanted to do than to light my new pair of $300 shoes on fire. All of a sudden, I couldn't dance like the boys anymore. I felt like a child, unable to do steps that I had known since I was 5, like a time step. Stomp, hop, step, full lap, step, stomp. I knew without a doubt that my sounds were wrong and muddy and just plain bad. It wasn't fair that I had to relearn how to tap when those boys were only getting better and better. That was the moment that I realized it. I hadn't seen a female tapper tapping in heels the way that I do. I hadn't really even seen a female tapper dancing alone since Shirley Temple. But there had to be some out there, right? Ruby Keeler. She popularized tap dance on the screen for women in 1933. She began as a buck and wing dancer, tapping without taps on the bottom of her shoes and aiming for a more percussive effect. Women hadn't done this before, due to the fact that the upper body is completely relaxed and a lot less appealing. Then her performance of Shuffle Off to Buffalo on 42nd Street became a showstopper. After that, she famously tapped on a bar, a giant typewriter, and with lots and lots of cats. Ginger Rogers. Well, she did everything that Fred Astaire did, just backwards and in heels. In their 10 films together, he had multiple solos in each, while Ginger was only written 2 across all of them, both of which ended up getting cut. It's hard to find any videos of her dancing alone, but the majority of the duo's choreography was hers. She was a strong woman who, in her words, had to fight and scream in the hopes of being treated like an equal, just to be paid about half of what her male co-stars were paid. She was the beginning of what we're still fighting for. Eleanor Powell, known as the world's greatest feminine rhythm tap dancer. Few women were solo tap dancers in movie musicals at this time, and even fewer created their own choreography. Eleanor Powell did both. She was said to have saved MGM with the money that she brought in from her films. Her tapping didn't conform to what other women were doing. It was rhythmic, speedy, and even acrobatic. As another one of Fred Astaire's partners, he said that she was too powerful for him. Her style was too mannish and big. In these times, the woman tapper was there to flatter the man, but Eleanor Powell didn't flatter him. She outdanced him. Ann Miller. She had feet like a machine gun. Her vigorous approach to tap dance was athletic and speedy with exact precision. Her legs were insured for $1 million. She could tap 500 taps per minute, and her shoes are currently exhibited at the Smithsonian. Her career took off in the movie Easter Parade. Prior to filming, she had just broken her back. She still filmed the entire movie regardless. Lady Di, America's first lady of tap. Lady Di came into tap dancing as a prescription from her doctor after having spent months in the hospital with polio. Lady Di is considered a transitional figure between young black female tappers and the forgotten black mothers of tap. She had an authoritative ease and expertise that was only found in veteran male hoofers that were twice her age. She's referred to as Lady Di because of her elegance and passion for the art of tap, and in acknowledgement of her being a mentor, teacher, and confidant to all. Jane Goldberg. She was essential in the revival of tap dancing. She took it upon herself to apprentice old hookers when performance opportunities started to dry up, just to make sure that their stories were still shared with the world. She began interviewing and documenting the lives of what was considered to be a dying art form. She also created an all-female tap show, which featured high-heel tappers, low-heel tappers, and celebrated the fact that women didn't have to tap like a man anymore to be taken seriously. Chloe Arnold. After realizing that the majority of tap shows that she wanted to be a part of were only casting males, she changed that. She started the Syncopated Ladies to finally give women an empowered voice in the tap world, while also using their art as activism. This group has over 50 million hits, has performed on So You Think You Can Dance, Ellen, at the US Open, and has even worked with Beyonce. These are only 7 of the mothers of tap. There are many more out there with their stories yet to be heard. So I'm gonna stomp for all those women that came before me. Hop for the hardships that they had to face just to be seen as an equal. Step for being known as a partner instead of a tapper. Flap for the love and the passion that these women had to fully commit to an unforgiving male-dominated profession. Step for the unsung heroes and creators of tap dance. Stomp for those 3 inches that, contrary to what men think, really do matter. Luckily, I didn't light my shoes on fire that day. They quickly became my favorite shoes. I know how hard it is to dance in heels, and I choose to. I don't want to tap like a boy anymore. I'm gonna tap like a girl.